I need to lean back. Me?
That's all you.
All right. Welcome to Eastern Current, guys. This is episode what?
Who knows?
Who knows? 30 something?
No.
40 something?
It'll be 45.
All right. 45.
We're going somewhere. We're doing something.
Yeah. So we're gonna talk about Topwaters. Oh yeah, a little applause.
I learned how to do sound effects.
We're gonna talk about Topwaters in the summer.
Spring.
Okay,
We'll talk about summer
spring.
too. Yeah, spring topwater fishing.
And then different types of topwaters, what fish we like to use them for, how we like to work them, so on and so forth.
Yeah, I think we'll talk a little bit about a little trip we went on a couple days ago on Saturday as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I do want to apologize. We were supposed to have Joe Johnson from Eastern Outfitters on tonight, but we could not get his phone to sync correctly. Like when we were trying to record the audio pre-show, it wasn't working very well. So we'll have him on next week. We'll be good to go then. So we apologize for that. I'm going to talk real quick about the Patreon
Please.
and the Google deal. So, sorry, I'm drinking this Polar Seltzer and it's making me burp a lot. But we have started that private Facebook group, asked to join, hop on there. We're just trying to create a fishing community of people that like this show, like this podcast, be able to talk to each other and communicate and talk about fishing. So check that out. It's Eastern Current Fishing. It's different than this Eastern Current live streaming page. The other thing is we have created a Patreon account. We're not trying to make a bunch of money through it, but we are trying to cover our back-end expenses for all the software we're paying for, monthly subscriptions, and Epidemic Sound, which is like allowing us to use sound or use songs on our YouTube videos, all our podcast hosting deal. It ends up coming to about $175 a month, and I know it's annoying to hear me talk about this, but it's really helpful it helps me a lot to not pay for all these little subscriptions. And if you really love the show, it would be a huge blessing to us to help us through either a $5 a month or $10 a month donation. There's different tiers on there. So for the first 10 people to go on there and donate, I'm going to draw a name and I'm going to give away 2 Fenwick HMGs, brand new, with 2 pin conflicts with 15-pound spider wire braid on them. So it's like I think it's like $400 value, probably more than $400 value for free. So go on there. It's either $5 a month, which is like a cup of coffee a month, or $10 a month. You can choose which one depending upon what you like or what you feel like you want to do. The other thing that I'm going to start doing, me and Cameron are going to start doing, is some extra content each month on that platform. I think we're even going to try to do like an extra podcast maybe every other week that's on there that's just for those Patreon members. So go check it out. I'm going to drop the link here, and I'm going to drop the link in the podcast description and the YouTube videos. But enough of that. Let's talk about topwater fishing.
Let's do it.
You down?
I'm in.
So tell everybody what we did this past Saturday. We went up and fished with Bryan Saunders up in
the Noose.
Yeah, up on the Noose in Newbern.
Yeah. So drove up there early Saturday morning. What time did we leave? 4:30?
You might have left your house at 4:30.
4:30, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
Got there early enough to where fish were still biting when we got there. The early morning bite was still good.
Yeah.
And I had never caught stripers on topwater, and that was like my main goal to do. And I'd say we achieved that goal.
Yeah, it was silly.
Over and above what I was expecting. But yeah, Bryan Saunders, who we've had on here before, showed us the ropes around there, and we had an awesome time. We caught stripers, we caught trout, we caught a couple red drum, probably more than a couple.
And I caught that red ear, that oyster, or not oyster, whatever it's called, little brim on a mirror lure.
Yeah. And one thing that was, you were crushing me in the beginning. We were fishing these like broken docks.
Yeah.
Really old docks that were just like stumps sticking out of the water, and really required like some pretty technical casting. I don't even think did we lose the topwater all day?
I broke one off. We never
got
lost
them all back.
Yeah.
But yeah, Judd started just like absolutely hammering them with one of the topwaters that you painted.
Yeah, I was stoked on that.
And I was sitting over there, a little too hesitant to probably get too deep in the stumps, and Judd was just like rifling it right down the middle. So you had probably caught 5 fish before I caught my first one. It was a little heartbreaking for me.
The crazy thing was, though, like you had all these stumps. You had like this exterior amount of stump or exterior line of stumps or old submerged dock pilings, if you will, that were barely sticking out because the tide was low. And I'd throw way up into those pilings and start working it out. And I don't think I ever had a blow up until it was inside. Like they were all sitting right on the outside edge of those pilings. Yeah. And I feel like I hear that with striper in a lot of scenarios, like on lights. A lot of fish, they like that edge, that ambush area. So even when they're cruising, they're like cruising those little ambush zones. Yeah, which was interesting.
Yeah, and one thing that like just while we're talking about topwaters and technique and things of that nature, with the first fish that I had eat my topwater, I immediately just ripped it, like because he boiled on it and I saw him and I kept working it, and then he came up and ate it and I felt the tug and I just like pulled my rod like this. And just not having fished topwaters in a while, it's super easy to do. But the main thing you want to do when you're working at topwater is just keep working it. Yeah. Even if you see him blow up on it, don't set the hook. Just keep working it until you feel a line pulling, and then you can pull back on it.
That's the big thing. Like I feel like even a lot of times the fish will eat it and miss it, and it goes underwater, and people don't see it, so they'll set the hook. Mm-hmm. But a lot of times they'll suck it down a little bit, and it'll come out. It's so important to keep working it. Keep working until you feel the buildup of pressure.
Yeah, and especially with those stripers. I mean, redfish too, but those stripers seem like they just miss that thing.
Yeah, constantly. They're a little sloppy.
A little sloppy.
Sloppy. A lot of we had a lot of little pops, pop, and then they just drop down underneath it. And
I mean, and some of those stripers are fairly small, but I mean, it's just important if you want to. Topwater's so much fun, but if you want to catch or have a good hookup ratio on topwaters, just keep it working until you really feel the fish pulling on it.
Definitely,
would be probably my biggest piece of advice for working topwaters.
There's a hook too that I've changed all my topwater plugs out to. God, do I have one in here? I forget what it's an owner brass nickel or something like that. It's a new owner hook. If you're local, go to Intercoastal Angler and ask Ben Chesney or Ryan or any of those guys the topwater, the hooks they like changing their topwaters to. It's what I've been putting on the plugs and the lures that I've been painting. And they are so sticky. I mean, the fish just barely nudge it. And the times I'm trying to get it out of my tackle box, I'll have 3 hooks just hanging off my hand. Like I got to pick them out. They're just really, really sharp. So those sloppy bites, I think it definitely helps out. A lot of the fish I had were hooked on the outside of the face. The striper
they just came up and swiped at it and got hooked.
And that's why it's so important to not pull away from them. If you keep working it and they miss it, they'll come back and eat it and eat it and eat it again. But if you rip it out of there, they're gone. So.
Yeah, and the other thing I learned about the stripers was because they miss it so much, and you keep working it, I almost had better, kind of what I don't do for redfish. So if I have a redfish blow up on a topwater, I'll pretty much just keep walking at the same speed. And I'm sure people have different techniques and think different things works, but that's just worked for me in the past. But with the stripers, if they would blow up on it or boil on it, I would stop the topwater and then just start twitching it slower. It was like they injured
almost it. Walking it in place a little
walking it in place just really slow, and almost every time they would eat it.
You started crushing them there mid-morning.
That's because you put down your rod.
Well, I think I put down my rod at first because you were catching the crap out of them. And I was like, all right, you're catching them good. So I ended up picking the camera up and just filming a bunch of close-up topwater eats. We've got a video that we're going to put out here in the next couple of days, but there's some really cool blow-ups. There was one time where Cameron was walking it. This one fish kept blowing it up all the way to the boat. Wasn't hooking him, and so I just cut my camera off. I was like, all right, I got to start fishing again. Right when I cut my camera off, the fish just smoked it 2 feet from the boat. And I had just taken my camera away from it. It was so sick, and I was pissed that I didn't get it, but everyone was like, oh, did you get that on film? I was like, no. That's the one that I missed.
Another thing I learned was don't give up on this fish, man, because you'll see one boil, he'll blow up, and you'll work it another 15 yards, and you're like, oh, he must be gone. Yeah. And so you just burn it in. But the guy, Bryan, that we were with was like, don't give up on a fish. If you've seen one boil or blow up, just work it all the way back to the boat. And that paid dividends.
Yeah, I would say more fish were hooked with inside half of the cast than the outside half of the cast, probably.
Yeah, I would agree.
I'm not going to share too much about this spot because it will maybe give it away to some people, but we were looking for structure for these spring striper. A lot of these fish are going up the river right now to spawn. owner stinger treble black chrome finish. Tommy Mungo, thank you. That is what it is. The owner stinger
I'm gonna have to try those out.
Yeah,
I've never tried those.
They're super sticky. A lot of these fish are upriver spawning right now, but there's still a good number of quality fish, and we had multiple fish over 20 inches, which isn't like a massive striper, but it's a good, really good North Carolina striper. We don't see many of those fish over 30 inches in North Carolina. And so what I was going to say, though, is I'm going to kind of lay out the two scenarios of where we were finding striper in the Neuse River. So one was structure-oriented, stump fields, old dock pilings, just like if you ever pay attention to, and this isn't always true, but redfish on docks, they're usually around the crappiest, oldest docks. The most growth, the most, crap going on there. Same with the striper on the structure, like is what he was saying. It's like the older dock pilings.
Yeah, we were fishing one old dock piling, and he was like, I've always caught stripers here. That dock right next to it, that was like fairly newer looking. Yeah. It's like been here for 10 years.
It was 30 yards away from that?
Never caught a striper there.
That's crazy. That's so crazy. But that's a lot of fish on heavy structure like that. It seems like they've got their little spots they like the redfish. They come back at the same docks year after year. But the other thing we were looking for was these submerged stump fields, if you will. There's a bunch of old washed out logs and stuff under the water. We were picking it up on the side scan. And so we're rolling into this flat right off the river channel. It's a big wide flat. There was a point, and Bryan pulls up a side scan and he's pointing it out. He's like, check this out. These are some striper. You can see these marks. I bomb a topwater out there. Click, click, click. Bam! And just smoked it right where I was kind of throwing into that area that the side scan was giving us a read on some fish. But they're very structure oriented. Striper are for the most part.
So it seemed that way.
They don't always have to be, but they can be. All right, so that's our little spiel on the spring striper fishing. It's good right now, and that fishery stays strong through the whole winter, or through the whole summer, through the winter too. But I mean, topwater all summer long up there. So hit up Bryan Saunders, go check him out, get out in the water with him, go do some topwater fishing. If you get up there on your own, go out and just look for that structure like we're talking about. Turn on your graph and try to find some good structure in that. Like, I don't think we caught any fish under 3 feet of water, but 3 to the deepest we were catching them in on topwater was 15 feet?
Yeah.
Maybe we were sitting at 15 maybe feet. Throwing to 12 or 10 feet of water. Super fun to do. Striper are, I'd say, top 5 favorite fish of mine.
Yeah. I mean, anything that eats topwater that readily is a fun fish to catch.
That's very true.
I mean, we must have caught, 50 to 60 stripers?
40 and 60 stripers on topwater.
All on topwater.
We didn't even throw anything else.
Yeah, that's a good day when you don't have to tie anything else on other than a topwater.
I know. My shoulder's still feeling a little bit. But all right, so here locally, let's talk about what we're kind of coming into. We've got the warming water temps. If you're on social media, you've already seen some pictures being posted of fish being caught on topwater. And it's that time of year. These fish are starting to look up. The mullet are starting to show back up in very, very small numbers so far. So topwater is a great way to target these fish, and it's a way that is very well. How do I put this? Well received at this time of year, because I'm so sick of working baits really soft and slow on the bottom. Really, it's nice to get a nice aggressive eat.
Yeah.
So what conditions are you looking for, Cameron, going into the spring of you're hitting the water and you're like, you know what, I might tie a topwater on first thing this morning?
Yeah, I mean, probably a little bit warmer weather. Yeah. If it's been warm for a couple days, especially this time of year, I think they'll probably readily eat it. 2, I'm looking for bait. If I don't see any bait or nothing, no fish blowing up on the surface or moving on the surface, then I might wait to put on a topwater. I like to see some sort of sign that that's kind of how they're feeding.
For sure.
But then, I mean, the big things I'm looking for is submerged oyster beds. I love throwing topwaters off grass points.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, anything that you if you're thinking like a fish, an ambush point, right? So somewhere where the fish can hide behind or hide around, that when something comes and sweeps by it, they can attack it without that bait really realizing that it's there.
Definitely.
But yeah, I mean, I would say happy fish, looking for happy fish.
I think that's a big one.
Moving around.
Especially if you're sight fishing.
Yeah.
Happy fish.
Yeah, especially if you're sight fishing. I mean, but Topwaters are a great search bait too.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I typically, like in the late spring and early summer, I usually have one rod with a topwater and one rod that's like a more of like an actual sight fishing rod, so like a grub or something.
Yeah, I would say to expand on happy fish, because I know you and I both know exactly what we're talking about when we say happy fish, and most people do, I feel like, but it's like, and it's hard if you're not sight fishing. How do you know if these fish are like acting what we're calling happy or not? But a lot of the days when I pick a topwater plug up this time of year, it's because where those fish are in the water column. Like if they're sitting on the bottom, the school's hanging out on the bottom, they're probably not going to come up and eat the topwater.
Yeah. But like, that's a good point. So if there's a big school somewhere and you see like they're getting from their hole onto like a big flat, and you can see them pushing around, pushing wake, eating bait, and like redfish do, they wink or whatever. That's always a great sign. Oh yeah, because they're looking for something to eat.
A little floating action going on. They're floating on the surface.
Man. Yeah, I mean, if they're in a deep hole but they're floating,
they're gonna smack a topwater.
They're gonna smack.
That might be the sickest, like the most fired up they get.
Yeah, that doesn't happen very often, but it's definitely cool to see.
Yeah, if they're in 8 to 10 feet of water or 5 to 10 feet of water and they're floating on the surface, pick a friggin' topwater up and throw it, because
they'll pretty much eat anything that you'll throw at them.
You throw a jig to them, they'll eat it on the top because they'll eat it so quick. But we're going to start to see some days like that now, where these schools that you might have found throughout the winter are going to be really, they might, these same fish that you've been having a ton of trouble getting them to eat, they get that right, that perfect mixture of food and sun and everything. And they'll get really fired up and really, want to eat a topwater plug. Yeah,
and some of those schools will grow. Like, I swear, sometimes you'll be fishing a school throughout the winter, and it's, if you fished them a lot, they start getting spooky or whatever, and then you come back a couple of weeks later, and it seems like there's 100 more fish in there.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm not exactly sure, but I have to imagine that there's still fish coming in from the ocean.
Yeah, definitely.
And probably, those fish are there for some reason. That other fish probably are going to the same places, and it seemed like those schools kind of explode.
Yeah, it seems like this is a point. I was talking about this. I was pre-recording another podcast earlier this evening. And I think fish, and this is just a thought, but you think about large migrations, big pushes of striper schooling and moving north, tarpon schooled up, moving north. Like, I think when fish make a decent sized move, whether it even be from a nearshore wreck through the inlet, I think they do it in numbers. Like, I think they group up and move together. Like, maybe like a fish or two will join a school, but it's like you're saying, it's like, I think 100 fish come in. I think as they travel in and out of the ocean, they're moving in large numbers a lot of times.
I think so.
Yeah.
I always thought it would be so cool to see, like, all right, so, you find a big school of fish somewhere in the spring.
Yeah.
Well, they had to have, it's deep back in the marsh somewhere.
Okay.
But, like, to get there, there's, like, they have to come through a teeny little creek, right? It's like, how cool would it be to be there
that day
if they are traveling in massive groups like that? Which if they're all ending up at the same place, you gotta imagine that they probably are.
Yeah.
To be like on the sandbar in like 8 inches of water when like 400 redfish start swimming by, you're like,
you'd be like, what the heck? Yeah, I can't say I've ever like caught them in transition like that.
I definitely haven't.
I've seen them like, there's some spots we'll fish together where it's like, they're in this spot, but sometimes we'll catch them here and we'll catch them here. Like they'll be holding in these different spots. Maybe they're like transitioning into the further spot, or I know you know the place I'm talking about probably, but yeah, it's we got off topic of topwater fishing. Again, here's something for y'all real quick. I keep forgetting to say this, but if you have any questions about topwater fishing, about spring fishing, shoot them over here in the comments, and we'll do our best to answer them all. We like to be interactive on these live shows and whatnot, but yeah, catching those fish in the transit. I think the only people that do that are gill netters.
You're probably right.
But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe some other people have too.
Probably right.
So yeah, look for happy fish. I mean, don't beat yourself to death throwing a top water. Wait for the right scenario. You'll know when it's right. I mean, when they're fired up eating a jig really well, and you're seeing them flashing in the water and seeing fish at the top of the water column, pick up that topwater plug and try it out a little bit.
Yeah,
and if they're not eating a topwater, maybe like some of those softines and other baits like that are super close to the surface, but they're still subsurface. Sometimes they'll eat that more. Like you'll get a lot of those fish that'll come up and follow a plug in the spring like really hard and not quite eat it. Yeah. Something that's just under the water where they can eat it without having to like blow up on the surface. Is best. But the redfish are eating topwater now. I mean, people have been catching them here. We caught one up in Newbern.
So you were on the water today. What was the water temperature?
I had 60. I had 60 in the creeks.
60?
Yeah, and that was in some clear water creeks. So if you get into some dirtier water further down south and down in South Carolina, it's going to be much warmer.
A little bit warmer.
Up in the New River, I'm sure it was probably, pushing 63, 64. It was getting a lot warmer. What was it earlier this week? Like we were getting like 67, 68,
getting in the upper 60s.
Yeah, it's crazy. There's some big fluctuations this time of year. And the fish will pick up on that. If you're on 2 days into that warming trend, topwater time.
Yeah. I would agree.
Let's see, we got some questions coming here. I know off subject, but inlets question mark. Wright's wool is probably the safest to go out of, but just recently moved to Hampstead. Any ideas or info? Okay, so he's asking about inlets thrown out of. I would say Mason Bro is definitely your best bet. If you've got a small swell, you can certainly slide out of Rich's Inlet, and you can slide out of Topsoil Inlet, and you can slide out of both those inlets with a big swell too, but you're just going to have to time it correctly. Those inlets can be a little squirrely.
Yeah, and I would say advice for that I always give people that are like a little iffy on running out some of those inlets, especially like Topsoil Inlet, is like go check it out at low tide.
Yeah,
and make sure, because that's when you're going to see all those exposed sandbars, and you can mark it with your boat, so the next time that you go through there, you know exactly.
Yeah, that's huge.
The route to ride.
That's huge.
Route to run.
The route to run. We got another question here. That was from Ben Booger. Or Bogier. Or Boger.
Let's go with Bogier.
Ben Bogier. All right, so Andrew said, do y'all like the higher pitch or lower pitch rattles in the topwater?
Ooh.
Me and Cameron are a little different.
Total opposites right here.
Total opposites. You go first.
I'm a huge fan of the She-Dog, which is a higher pitched topwater. And I don't know why. People tend to like the She-Dog for trout a lot, from what I understand. For redfish, for me, it's always been really good.
I know. You'll catch like 5 in front of me, and I try to throw that dang thing, and I cannot get one.
I don't know why. Try out a bunch of different ones.
Yeah.
I've never had a ton of luck on the like lower pitched ones, but I also don't throw it all the time because I have a lot more confidence in the high pitched ones. But I mean, when I was throwing one of your topwaters, a Spook Junior, right, which is a little bit lower pitched.
Yeah.
For the stripers. And you were crushing them, and I wasn't doing that great. And then I was like, you know what? Going with the old faithful. Put on the She-Dog, and then I started tearing them up.
And pink, too. We were all throwing chartreuse all morning, and then you picked up pink. So I just wrote down a ton of notes, because I'm going to write an article about topwater fishing for the blog that kind of has everything laid out. But here's my theory. So shallow water, low pitch is a little less intrusive. You know, it's going to be not quite as abrasive in that shallow water. Higher pitch, you're going to get more distance with the noise, more range from that topwater plug. So if you're fishing, 8 feet of water, 10 feet of water, 12 feet of water, it might be a smart idea to start out with a higher pitch plug that's going to make more noise.
Yeah. And here's a thought. Maybe, I've never thought about this. It just came to me. But maybe higher pitch is better for dirty water.
Yeah.
Because... it's not in dirty water. I feel like things are less like intrusive on the fish.
Yeah.
Which I usually topwater dirtier water in the summer, and maybe that's
topwater dirtier water.
Yeah, topwater dirtier water. What did I say?
No, that's what you said. I was just trying to wrap my head around it.
I usually topwater dirtier water in the summer, which is and I always use the She-Dog, so maybe that's why I've had more success with it than a low pitched one.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, at the end of the day, if they're going to eat a topwater, a lot of times, they'll eat a topwater. But I think what I love about fishing and what keeps me on my toes is like breaking down these little pieces and trying to become a better angler and not just sticking to, the one thing, like trying to play with your tackle and play with your tactics and play with your approach and try to get that edge on the fish and the edge on the anglers around you. It's a competitive world that we fish in now.
Yeah. No doubt.
And to be successful, you can't just settle for like mediocre. That's my spiel for y'all. So get with it, America.
So what is your favorite, if you could only throw one topwater for the rest of your life, for redfish, trout, and
it would be a spook of some sort. Hedon, I hear it pronounced. I think it's Hedon is the proper way to say it. But probably a one knocker if I had to go a Hedon one knocker. I like all three sizes. I really like the full size spook. It's a 3-hook plug. But I like to take the middle hook out. Ryan Christopherson taught me that. You take the middle hook out and put 2 bigger hooks on either end. And then I like the Spook Juniors a lot. But I think this stuff is making me burp like crazy. Polar, our number one sponsor. I'm just kidding. But the one knocker spook I really like. And here's another thing to think about. So pitch is really important. But the shape of these plugs has a lot to do with how they walk and the conditions that they do well in. So like in choppy conditions, like your she dog does better because it's got that curve in the belly. It's going to keep the nose up out of the waves a little bit more, out of the chop. Like a spook, it doesn't do as good in heavy chop because it's so flat. It'll dig down under the water a little bit more. Same with a skitter walk. You're going to get a little better action with a skitter walk in a slightly choppier water. And here's a big myth. That you need to only throw topwater when it's slicked out. Because they eat the crap out of topwaters. I think it's sometimes better when you've got really good texture on the water.
Yeah, no, I think it's probably when there's more texture on the water too. It's a little less intrusive.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, I've had some great days when it's like pretty windy and choppy. And even though maybe not like in the middle of the day, but early in the morning, it's been pretty productive.
For sure. Are you... So I'm sure you're like me, like topwater for the most part in the mornings and in the evenings. Is there any time you'll pick a topwater up in the middle of the day and throw it?
Yeah, no, I think that goes back to like if the fish are kind of showing you signs that they would eat a topwater. Yeah, I think that there's days where they'll eat topwater all day long.
Yeah, I think we could take it back to like our days of dating, where like you're at a party and you're hanging out and you're like. You're kind of scoping out the scene to see if there's any honeys that you can flirt with. And you're like, is she kind of into me? Should I try to talk to her a little bit? Or is she... That's when you pick the topwater plug.
I was wondering where you were going.
No, this isn't like... This is just for hanging out. You want to, be aware of your surroundings is what I'm getting at. And understand, what's going on at the party. Yeah, if you will.
No, and like I said before, it's a great search bait, and I'll use them in the middle of the day for a search bait. Yeah, just because you might have one blow up on it and you might not eat it, or you might have one wake on it and you might not eat it. But at least that tells you that
you've moved a fish.
That you've moved a fish, and there's probably if there's one fish, generally there's
I agree,
a couple more in the area.
So Tommy Mungo says, "Do you like smaller topwaters in the spring?" We're going to go with red, let's say for redfish.
For redfish? Yeah.
And if you're talking about trout, Tommy, shoot it in the comments here and we'll answer that.
I'd say one depends on the size of the redfish. Like if it's still kind of winter schools and they're smaller redfish, I would probably throw a smaller, like a Spook Junior. I agree 100%. So if I'm throwing a bigger topwater and they're spooking off of it or something like that, then I'd probably switch to a smaller topwater.
Yeah, that I would have to agree with that. And one thing that I was thinking about, talking about topwater fishing right now is the fact that, right now they're still super schooled up. So they get real competitive with each other. They start wanting to fight over whatever the available food source is. And I feel like as these fish start to break out of these schools, that topwater fishing dies pretty hard for like late spring, early summer. It's kind of sucky, like topwater redfish at least. And so... get some fish on the topwater right now. Like if you're catching them really good, like put down the jig and maybe catch a few less fish, but get a few on topwater because that late spring, early summer is tough on top. I mean, it really is. And then as it really warms up and the fish spread out into singles and doubles and they're on oyster bars, then it's back game on. It's a whole different scenario. Yeah. But that spring topwater fishing is like good now, and I would say May it gets pretty tough for me. I mean, you can definitely still get them on topwater. They'll still eat topwater, but it's a big transition period. And that time gets kind of tough for me in general sometimes, but so you can still have some really good days of fishing.
How do you feel about, like, if there's a big school throwing topwater to them, how far do you like to lead them? Because those things make such a big splash.
They make such a big splash.
When they hit the water. Do you like to like really lead them, or do you think they don't care that much?
Man, like we were saying earlier, reading the fish and understanding their attitude can play a lot into that. But I don't think it ever hurts to lead fish, the right amount. And when they're schooled up, the nice thing about a topwater is you can like throw it way across them, slide it on the surface to the right place, and then start working it across them. Like anything that I'm throwing when fish are schooled up or not, I'm trying to like get it to a place, land it away from them, not spooking them, and then slide it into play. And same thing with the topwater. You want them to feel just like anything else. You want them to feel like they found it. Like you want them to feel like they're swimming along and they've kind of spooked this bait fish up to the surface, and he's up on the surface trying to get away, and that'll usually trigger that bite pretty well. But what about you? What's your kind of rule of thumb?
Yeah, I would say I would generally lead them a decent amount. Probably a little more than I would with like a jig head with a grub on it.
Yeah.
Just because they make such a loud noise when they land.
For sure.
But like a good point is like throw it way over them, because you're not going to pull your line through them under the water, because it's going to be on top. So
I agree.
That's a good way to do it. I
think that another big aspect of topwater fishing when you're seeing the fish in the water is the angle game. And meaning it's the same deal with subsurface baits, having that retreating angle, the bait kind of moving away from the fish. So if a fish is swimming at me, I want that bait to kind of quarter across his nose coming back towards me too. And the same thing with a school. Like if the school's swimming away from you and you throw a topwater over them and you start working that bait back so that it's coming straight at the fish and over their heads and behind them, much less likely to get a bite there, I feel like, than if you were throwing it across that school and getting quartering angle. I feel like quartering angle is usually the best, where you're kind of getting it across multiple fish.
Most fish, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, definitely. That head-on shot, especially with a single fish, like if there's a single fish coming straight at the bow of the skiff and I've got a jig or a fly rod or anything in my hand, that's the hardest angle to get them to feed. You don't have an angle. You have that one direct line of where you've got to land that fly or land that jig or land that topwater to get that fish to eat. As opposed to, if he's kind of quartering across your bow, you've got all this area to land your bait and watch that fish and slide it into play, which is key. And if you're with a good captain or someone that understands that, or a good, not even a captain, but another buddy that's setting you up with the trolling motor or setting you up on the push pole for that shot, they're going to be thinking about all that too. They're going to try to give you that best angle. And that's what's cool about the way you and I fish a lot on a skiff, is how we work together as a team to kind of make the best shot happen. Angles, I understand what you're thinking, how you want that cast to be, and you understand what I'm doing with the boat. So it's like this big seamless motion to hook that fish, to target that fish or target that school. The other thing too is staying back from fish when throwing topwater plugs. Like that's the beauty of it.
You can freaking launch them.
You can launch them.
And pretty accurately.
Yeah, super accurately. Like if you can get that nice little barrel roll like a football.
Oh yeah, man. It's no better feeling than when a topwater is just like barrel rolling through the air.
I like when it's like tumbling and the trebles are wrapping the bait up in the air. That's
I've always tried to figure out, like, because, I feel like I get a really good cast on topwaters where they really just glide through the air, like, really well. I don't know, maybe 70% of the time.
Yeah.
And I can't figure out if it's something that I'm doing when I'm casting it, if it's making it tumble, or if it's just happenstance.
Yeah, I don't know. It's got to be... It has to be something with the cast, don't you think?
I would think so,
to make it play out. I mean, maybe the wind or whatnot, but yeah, I think it has to do with that cast. I wonder if it's more of like a tight snap with the rod tip, or if it's more of like an open swing.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it has something to do with the release of your finger. Yeah, but I mean, you get so much more distance on that thing.
Oh my gosh,
when it's gliding properly.
Yeah, you can, especially downwind. I mean, you can throw one 75 yards. So let's talk a little bit about, we've talked about kind of the different styles of these like walk the dog baits. Have you played around with any other type of topwaters for saltwater fish?
Not really.
Not really? Any poppers?
I've used poppers. Used poppers, but mostly for bluefish.
Yeah.
And as well as like, big ones for amberjack.
Amberjack, yeah, for sure. I keep saying for sure. One of the baits that I really like, I liked it a lot in Louisiana. I think it was really effective in Louisiana,
Whopper plopper.
The whopper plopper, or any prop bait, like any of those prop style baits. You get some of those old striper plugs and bass plugs that have like the propeller on the nose and stuff like that.
Do you walk the dog with those, or do you just reel it in?
With the whopper plopper? Mm-hmm. You just reel it in. If you try, it won't let you walk the dog. Like the way that prop is shaped, it holds that bait in the water. But you can also use it like a popper and chug it, and that works really well. But those big bull redfish in Louisiana love a whopper plopper.
Yeah, I don't doubt it.
Here, I've noticed that the fish are the slot fish. The 18 to not even slot, but 18 to 30 inch fish don't necessarily love a whopper plopper. There's some days where they'll crush it, but I think a walk the dog style bait is typically the best. I have caught redfish on a topwater duck in Louisiana. It's a Savage Gear duck with a prop feet that spin.
Yeah.
But those fish, when they get fired up down there, they'll eat freaking
What
anything.
about the rat?
I have not caught one on the wake bait rat, but I took.
They work.
It works. I took Ben Chesney, a buddy here. He's been on the show a few times. He had a big, like 8-inch Savage Gear. I think it's a Savage. Yeah, or maybe it's a live target. I can't remember who it is. But it's a wake bait rat, so it's got a bill like a crankbait, but it's straight down so it doesn't make the plug dive. Mm-hmm. And it's a jointed bait, and it swims just like a rat. I mean, you've fished
I have one. I've used it for bass, but I've been wanting to use it on a redfish just so I can say that I've caught one.
I think wake baits are a bait that needs to be fished for redfish more. I mean, nothing swims more like a mullet. And I'm not talking about the rat, but I'm talking about different wake baits that they have out for bass. Mm-hmm. Just that kind of meandering on the surface.
Does it have a noise to it?
I'm sure some of them have rattles in them. I haven't. It doesn't have like that click clack like a topwater or like a walk the dog style bait's going to have. But I mean, they look just like a mullet waking on the surface. Yeah. I know they'd eat it. I mean, I feel like it'd be a better bait for fishing in the summertime around the oyster bars. Like when there's areas you kind of know where you typically are getting redfish to blow up a topwater plug. Mm-hmm. I think they would work really well.
What's your tactic for? Sorry, I'm switching topics slightly.
Yeah.
What's your so me personally, if I have a redfish specifically, like blow up on a topwater, I keep walking at the same speed. Do you have a different technique for that for redfish?
I walk the same speed, or I'll speed it up a little bit. Mm-hmm. I never slow it down once there's interest, and I definitely don't stop it. Like redfish really don't like it stopped.
Yeah.
There is one story though that this just defies what I just said, but. Me, Ben Chesney, the guy I was just talking about, and my old roommate, Tommy Sade, we were fishing down in the lower Cape Fear River, and we're in a small little creek, and I had been catching redfish in these 2 or 3 creeks that were near each other, in the days prior, and we went in there, and we'd already caught 2 or 3 in this one creek. We were right at the mouth of this next creek. We go in there. Tommy goes to sling a topwater up the middle. Wind knot's really bad on the spool. Topwater's like, 50 feet away from the boat, just sitting there. While he sits there, he unties his whole wind knot, gets it all undone. And literally, I mean, it probably took him 5 minutes, or maybe not 5 minutes, maybe a minute and a half. Plug hadn't moved at all. And as soon as he gets his wind knot undone, have I told you this story?
No.
As soon as he gets his wind knot undone, he flips the bail. There's still a bunch of slack, and a fish just smokes the plug on the surface and starts taking off with it. And he came tight, and he landed the fish.
Oh
I think he landed the fish. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he landed the fish.
That's got to be a very
rare occurrence. I wonder how long that fish was just sitting there looking at that thing. I'm gonna eat it.
A minute and a half.
A minute and a half, probably. Yeah. That was crazy. That was crazy. Tommy, if you're watching this, I miss you. Let's go fishing sometime soon. Actually, we are going fishing in Weldon. If they'll let us.
If who will let you?
If the state will let us. Coronavirus stuff. So. How do you think this coronavirus is going to, affect our spring fishing or the ability to do spring fishing?
Good question. I mean, I guess it all just depends on how bad it gets.
Yeah.
The one good thing is if they do shut down, letting people go take their boats out, that there'll be a lot of unpressured fish around.
Yeah, that's for
when
sure.
the time comes to get out there.
Yeah.
But I'm sure everyone will try to be doing the same thing once they let people out.
Yeah, it's I've heard that they've been closing down boat ramps and stuff in states up north, and I even heard my buddy was saying in New York, they were kicking people off the water, people that had private access to the water. Mm-hmm. They were telling them they had to go home and not be out on the water, which I think this is up in New York. and New Jersey. But excuse me, just burped a little bit. I forgot that Mike picks it up. So what was I saying? Oh, closing down boat ramps. I don't see them doing that here. Or I see them closing down boat ramps. I don't see them kicking us off the water, if we have private access. Because, I mean, there's really no better place to be. I can understand if it's a bunch of college kids, high school kids packed on a boat, going to the sandbar and partying. But, if it's one or two people on a boat out there fishing, like, it's a pretty safe place to be.
It's fairly quarantined.
Fairly quarantined. I mean, especially if you just picked, like, your one buddy, two buddies you're going to go fish with, and that was kind of your outing for the week. But it's important to be safe, man. I mean, it seems like this is pretty serious, and get out and do the fishing that you can. But I think that might be a good idea to just pick a couple people. I'm gonna run a few more guide trips and then probably shut it down for a little bit and try to stay away from the virus and stay away from the germs. But like we were saying, this spring topwater fishing is awesome. I mean, I think the one thing we haven't really touched on is trout a little bit, and I think one of the things to look at, one, if you're in some of these non-tidal coastal areas, topwater is going to be a big proponent.
Player,
yeah, it's going to be a big player in the spring, and it is a big player in the spring. I feel like the trout in the spring locally here in Wrightsville Beach, topwater is probably not going to be the first thing I pick up to throw.
I was going to ask you because I've never really focused on trout in the spring, and I know people do. And I was wondering if you had ever had experience with topwaters for trout in the spring, because in the early fall, it's like an awesome bait to use for trout, and then as it gets colder, it kind of dies off as far as productivity with that lure. But as the water warms up, I mean, are trout going to readily eat a topwater, you think?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's the main bait I catch them on in the summer. If I catch trout, is on a topwater plug. Then again, I'm not
rare though for me.
You have to really go out and target them. Yeah. Like, I don't think there's much bycatch on a topwater plug for trout because they're not hanging out where the redfish are. They're hanging out on those big edges again. I mean, I feel like the pattern shifts again. So like in the fall, they're in these big main edges, these big main channels near inlets along coastal rivers. At least here in North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, and Virginia, that's kind of the trend. And later in the winter when it gets cold, they push way back in the tight creeks. They find the really deep holes. They sit in there, and topwater is really not a player at all then. I mean, in the winter, in some of the coastal rivers like the New River, up into the Pamlico Sound, all those tribs up there, topwater, if you get 3 or 4 warm days in the winter, you can go catch them on topwater all winter. And same deal with the spring. All the coastal rivers are going to fish really well throughout the spring with the topwater.
And the thing that I noticed too, like when we were in the Neuse, was that there was big bait fish around.
Yeah, big mullet. We saw
like around here. I feel like I don't ever see like big bait fish this time of year or winter into. Getting around now.
Maybe like the big hardhead mullet. But other than that, nothing,
other than that, nothing.
Yeah. The amount of pogies and menhaden up there were impressive.
Yeah. They were everywhere.
Yeah. I think that they get keyed in on that noise like we were talking about when the pogies are flicking, and they're starting to listen for that in the spring.
Yeah. With when you're fishing topwaters for trout, what's your favorite?
Favorite topwater for trout is the one knocker.
The one knocker?
The one knocker, I think. If I had to pick one.
Is the one knocker the same as the Spook Junior?
No, it's in between the full size Spook.
Okay, that's the one with the three trebles.
So it's like a little smaller than that one.
Okay.
And it only comes with 2 hooks.
Okay.
It's like the size of a skitter walk, a full size skitter walk, pretty much the length of that. Maybe a little bit longer than that. And it's got such a good pitch. I mean, it's like a medium pitch. It's not a low. It's not a high. It's like a good medium pitch sound. They love that plug. A chartreuse and white one knocker is pretty deadly. And I wish they made an 808. I think it's 808. Yeah, the orange and black skitter walk. The golden mullet, I think they call it. That color. And I paint some up. So if anybody's interested in those, hit me up. I can paint them up for you. And you just pay me for the materials. You don't have to. I'm not trying to sell these plugs, but they're great little baits. I really like that color, and I like that plug. So they don't make them, so you got to make them yourself.
I've had a lot of luck. I think you turned me on to them. It was the Spook Juniors for trout.
Yeah, the Spook Juniors are awesome.
They seem to do really well.
That might be my favorite plug. An all chartreuse Spook Junior or a mullet.
It's okay, you can have two favorites.
I know, I can't pick favorites. I'm pretty bad at that. Oh well.
When you're fishing for trout with topwaters, and do you have a different technique when they blow up on it? If they miss it?
Yeah, it comes back to like that striper deal. It's the same kind of thing. You can pause it a lot for a trout, and they'll still eat it, and they'll sit underneath it.
Work it slower.
Yeah, work it slower. Knock, let it sit. Like walking it in place. We were talking about, where you can like pop, give it time to kick, and it'll just kind of stay in one spot, kicking back and forth.
Yeah, and I feel like the best, only way that I can really explain that is if a fish hits it and miss it, it's almost like you have to work it like it's really injured.
Yeah, definitely.
Like it just is confused. It just got a concussion and it doesn't know what it's doing.
Yeah, I would agree. They're I feel like that's so natural for them to come up and bust a mullet and get a good hold of it but not kill it, and it's up on the surface kind of freaking out, and they come up and eat it again. So I've never even really thought about that, because I always think, speed it up. I think those are your two options: speed it up like it didn't get injured and it's trying to flee,
it's scared, yeah,
or fish it like it's really hurt. And to have the opportunity to play around with those options in a day is rare. You're probably not gonna have that with redfish unless it's you're on a school of fish. An average spring morning when the fish aren't schooling, 4 or 5 redfish on topwater is a good day.
Oh yeah.
In the schools, yeah, definitely in the summer.
Redfish in the summer is good.
Definitely so. I know it's our expectations are going to drop from I need to go catch 30 redfish in a day to 4 or 5. But the scenarios get so much more enticing than scenarios in which you catch the fish. But all right, if we hit everything spring topwater fishing, I feel like we could do multiple episodes on this. We could have done an episode for each fish.
Yeah, we could have.
We blew it. We really blew it.
But sorry, guys. I think we touched most of the stuff. I mean, we talked about topwaters we like, how to work them. Oh, one thing I do want to touch on is I've seen fishermen that are really good fishermen not tie a loop knot or a Rapala knot. Maybe they're the same knot, I'm not sure, on their topwaters, and I'm like, God, dude, you gotta have a knot on there that has some room to give that thing some wiggle, because if you try and walk the dog with a uni knot or a fisherman's knot or something like that, it works, but it doesn't have the consistency in it. You don't get the perfect rhythm that you're looking for. Yeah. So the knot is, in my opinion, super important if you're fishing topwaters. Yeah,
I agree. The knot is key. That loop knot is going to give it so much more play. That's a really good point. So don't tie unis, don't tie, improved clinch knots.
And the one I use is called the Rapala knot.
The Rapala knot? I don't know which one that is.
It may be the same as the loop knot. Not quite sure.
I do. I don't even know what the name is. I've always called it a tarpon loop, but I do it's like a figure 8. You tie an inline figure 8, then you go through the eye of the hook, then you chase the figure 8 back through, then you tie a uni above it and cinch it, and you got.
Okay, mine's different.
Is it different than that? Yeah. You do the figure 8, not.
I do the figure 8 to start it off. Go through the lure, back through the loop that you made, wrap it around the line 3 or 4 times, and then back through the loop.
Oh, wow.
You tighten it.
Rapala knot.
Yeah, and that's worked for amberjack.
What's the highest line that you tied it in? Highest poundage?
Probably 40 to 50.
Okay. It ties pretty well on
that? Once it gets up to 50, it gets a little tough.
Yeah, a lot of knots do. It's hard to get them to seat.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm not a really heavy line knot expert.
Yeah, I'm not
mostly light line.
Crimp it, swivel.
That's pretty much. Yeah, that'll work for heavy line.
It does. Well, guys, thank you all for checking out the show. If you were watching the live recording, we apologize for that mishap. I've been having a lot of issues with my phone and with my Wi-Fi. I think with this coronavirus going on.
Blame it on the virus.
I know. I think I think some people are on their phones. I don't know what it is. But
of course, they had to shut down too. My favorite topic.
I know, on topwater fishing.
Yes.
We'll do a lot more topwater episodes. They're fun to talk. It's fun to talk about.
And
with
the
changing
video.
Season.
And we'll have a video.
Yeah, we'll have a topwater striper video coming soon.
Hopefully that gets you pumped up to go topwater.
It'll get you pumped up. The intro is sick. It'll get you pumped up to go and do some topwater striper fishing at least.
You didn't film me singing, did you?
It's hard to say. It's very hard to say. like I was saying earlier, check out the Patreon account. It'd just be a huge blessing if y'all really do love the show to support it in that way. If you can't, no worries. Just share it with a friend. One other thing that you could go do that would really help us is our podcast ranking was really good, but we've kind of dropped back on the reviews. So if you do like the podcast, go to iTunes and review the podcast. Hopefully a 5-star review if you think it's 5-star worthy. Leave a little comment there. That just helps us a lot with the ranking on iTunes for more people to find this. But we love y'all so much. Thank you so much for your support, and we will see y'all in the next episode.